Where brands should run paid marketing depends on the size of the brand and depends on the product and service they're offering, but there are a lot of commonalities between pretty much every product, every service and every size of business, and all brands should really start in one place, and that place is anywhere that consumers, your audience, are giving off signals that they are in market for your product or your service. So the best place and the most obvious place that everyone will be aware of is Google, because on Google people go and they stick up their hand and go, I'm in market for something. They search, they look for a product, and you can serve advertising based on that intent. So it's an extremely powerful tool. The problem with focusing purely on places where people are giving off their intent is that all your customers are there too. So it's really expensive and it's really competitive, and often those people that are searching and are giving off signals that they're in market are the ones that are price sensitive and they'll shop around, because all your customers, they're giving off a signal, and all your competitors are picking up on that signal and are marketing to that person too, and it ends up often being a bit of a race to the bottom in terms of who can be the quickest, the cheapest, the fastest, who've got the shiniest product, and actually that's not necessarily what brands need for long-term sustained growth. They need customers that are very high value and loyal. So the first place to focus is where customers and where potential customers, your consumers, are giving off purchase intent and purchase signals. The next place outside of that is then places where your customers aren't necessarily giving off certain signals that they're in market, but you can target very effectively based on the behavior that they are taking online. So a great example of this would be Facebook. And Facebook give you the ability to market with very defined and customized segments, because they have a huge amount of data, so they can understand and listen to what people, the behaviors that people are doing online, and they can build up segments based on that. So they can build up the ability to be able to target someone when they look like they're going to be in market, or when they look like they're very interested in a product. That's an extremely powerful tool for marketers and brands to be able to capitalize on. The next place outside of that is then, and for me this is the place that is the most interesting, is where your consumers are hanging out online, where they're not necessarily expecting your marketing and expecting advertising. This is particularly powerful because by reaching someone there, your competitors aren't there, or they're very unlikely to be there, and often the person isn't yet in market, isn't actually physically looking for your product and service. So you can introduce it rather than them coming to you. And the power of that is that you get to control the narrative, you get to control the conversation. And that ends up, if you can take someone from that position where they're unaware to a position where they're then considering you, and then finally position to a position where they're making a purchase decision, generally speaking, those people, those consumers that you've taken through that journey are much, much more likely to become high quality and loyal customers in the long term. So those places are things like podcast advertising, where someone might be going for a run and you can literally be in their ear when they're running. Like, what better way to reach them in a contextually relevant environment where they're listening to something that's relevant, and in a way that it enables you to be the only brand that's communicating to them in that space. So to recap, the places that I'd always recommend brands starting are where consumers are giving off purchase signals and they're saying, hey, I'm in market. Reach them there. You're most likely to get the strongest return on investment by marketing in those places. The next best place is places where you can target very effectively, and you can target specific audiences based on the behaviors that they're giving off. And then the third place, and the place that really, when you've saturated those first two, it really enables you to up your marketing game, is those places where your competitors aren't, and in contextually relevant environments where you can be pretty much the only brand that reaches them and communicate to them in an interesting and relevant way.